following video contains information that should be taken lightly. The build demonstrated in this video is by no means BIS, the play, the move, or the new meta. It is simply one viable option among many. Viewers' discretion has been advised. Hey guys, this is Jedith, and this video is going to be going over a build that people have been using in Mythic Plus for the past little while. This is one of many builds. This isn't the best build, like I said in the disclaimer at the start of this video. This is just one of the many viable builds that you can run as Venthyr for Havoc DH. So we're going to be going over that today. This build in particular is kind of a bit more like single target focused, super good in Mythic Plus, especially on tyrannical weeks, but also still very good on fortified weeks because there's always going to be like a prio target that you need to get down. So I'll be going over the talents, the soulbinds, the conduits, all that stuff. And yeah, so if you find this video useful, make sure you give it a like, sub to the channel. I will be putting out further videos on all the other builds that people are running, now with Venthyr. There's so many of them, so I'm going to try to put out videos for those as well. So if you're not subbed to the channel, make sure you sub so you get notified when those videos come out. Okay, let's take a look at the talents first. This is pretty similar to the raid build that you're running as Venthyr with some slight variation. So we're going to be taking Blind Fury. This works for two reasons. One is that it gives you a full bar of Fury every time you I-beam, which is great. That just kind of loads you up and sets you up in a good position to blast chaos strikes inside of your demonic window. And then it also increases I-beam's duration by 50%. So this is good because if you're not like completely up to speed with how Venthyr is working, you're basically using two legendaries. Your Unity, which is giving you your Covenant specific legendary, right? So Sinful Brand deals 10% increased damage, and I-beam damage increases the duration of Sinful Brand by 0.75 seconds. So each time I-beam ticks, it's going to increase the damage, or it's going to increase the duration. So extending your I-beam by 50% is just going to give you that many more seconds of extension on your Sinful Brand. And then we'll be taking Collective Anguish in tandem with Unity. So in Mythic Plus, this is going to be your best bet. You can run Dark Glare, but it's way too RNG for my liking. This one allows you to make sure you get, extensions right away on enemies. And if you play it right, you can also kind of work your way around it so you can get two Sinful Brands out at the same time. Now, the reason that Collective Anguish works so well is because you get extensions to your Sinful Brand from I-beam as well as the Fell Devastation that procs from Collective Anguish, so you're double dipping. So it's guaranteed time extension on your Sinful Brand, as opposed to Dark Glare, where you're pretty much playing the lottery. You have a 40% chance every time you cast an I-beam to maybe proc another I-beam. So you can get really good results with that, but you can also get really, really screwed over. So in Mythic Plus, I tend to lean more into Collective Anguish. It seems to be the best choice by far. You're guaranteeing those extensions, and it puts you in a position to be able to throw out a second Sinful Brand on another target. So super, super useful to be using Collective Anguish. So that being said, we're going to move on and take Insatiable Hunger. Now we're taking Insatiable here because we are going to be pressing Demon's Bite. Previously we were running Demon Blades, which kind of, got rid of Demon's Bite as an ability, but now we're going back to this. This just allows us to manage our Fury a little better, so we can build and spend very quickly. And so because you're going to be pressing Demon's Bite, right, you just want to add a little bit more damage to it and increase the Fury that it generates. So for the level 30 talent, you can take pretty much any of these options, but what I find is that Glaive Tempest is working the best right now. This is working more so than Unbound Chaos in I want to say not lower keys, but not keys where you're doing MDI pulls. Basically, if you're doing regular pulls, 1-2 packs at a time, Glaive Tempest is actually working out to be pretty good because of the relic that you can get. So basically reduces cooldown reduction or increases cooldown reduction, either way. So you're getting Glaive Tempest back so many times inside of a pull, and it just works really well. If you're doing really big pulls, you might find more benefit from Unbound Chaos, but most of us, we're not doing MDI, so Unbound Chaos probably isn't the best choice to pick at this point. The other thing with Glaive Tempest is that basically you're kind of dispersing your damage, right? So the reason you don't take you don't take Glaive Tempest in raid is because you need to make sure you keep Sinful Brand up on the boss at all times, right? So Unbound Chaos works for that reason because it doesn't cost any fury, doesn't cost a GCD. It's just, you know, it's leaving you a lot more to spend on Chaos Strikes. But in Mythic Plus, things aren't living that long. You don't really have to worry about like extending over and over and over. Usually by like 1 or 2 extends, the mob is dead. So Glaive Tempest works in a way where it kind of disperses your damage. So it's not all front loaded into Sinful Brand. It's kind of, you're putting a little bit more back into your AoE. So you're getting kind of the best of both worlds, if that makes sense. And then this row, you can take Soul Rending or Netherwalk, whichever one you prefer. I prefer Netherwalk because there's just so many mechanics you can cheese with it. That might be a whole nother video. And then the bread and butter of this build is Cycle of Hatred. So whenever Chaos Strike refunds Fury, it also reduces the cooldown of I-Beam by 3 seconds. So Chaos Strike has a baked-in 40% chance to refund Fury. Every time it does that, you reduce the cooldown on I-Beam. The more I-Beams you can blast out there, the more you're gonna extend your Sinful Brand. You see how this works. And then in Mythic Plus, you can take whichever one you prefer. I usually just stick with Fell Eruption, and then Demonic. So those are the talents for this build, guys. Now let's look at the Soulbind. The Soulbind you're going to be running is Nadia. There's a few different ways you can run this. So we'll start up here with Thrill Seeker. This is basically giving you just a, injection of haste every once in a while. Super good. Can't go wrong with it. Haste also increases the damage of the dot on Sinful Brand. So amazing. Growing Inferno, that's always been a lock-in for pretty much the entirety of Shadowlands. You always want to have Growing Inferno, no matter what build you're playing, no matter what Covenant, Soulbind you're running, always Growing Inferno. Then you're going to go down to the left here, take whatever Finesse conduits you want, whatever Endurance. And then this is where you have a choice, right? You can go off to the right, and you can take Dauntless Duelist. So this is a bit more single target focused. You're going to do 3% more damage to the enemy, the first enemy that you hit in combat. And they deal 1.5% less damage to you. You only have one adversary at a time. So really good for bosses. Again, on a Tyran week, might be pretty good. The other option is you go triple potency Nadia, and you take increased scrutiny. So this reduces the cooldown at this level, 265. The cooldown of Sinful Brand by 10.5 seconds. So what this allows is opportunity, along with Collective Anguish, to have Sinful Brand out on 2 targets at a time. This is really going to help with that because it is reducing the cooldown on Sinful Brand. So you're going to have, instead of like just worrying about extending, you're going to extend, but then you're also going to have another one banked, another like actual free cast that you have banked that you can then put on another target, if that makes sense. It's also just kind of a safety net in case, you're tasked with a mechanic where you have to run away. You don't have the opportunity to extend your Sinful Brands with your I-Beams. Say it falls off, you then have that safety net of reducing the cooldown of it and casting it again. And for the next potency slot, we're going to take Relentless Onslaught. Now this one is crucial if we're playing Cycle of Hatred because it does actually work with Cycle of Hatred. So Chaos Strike has a 10.5% chance to trigger a second Chaos Strike. So those extra procs of Chaos Strike can also proc Cycle of Hatred if they crit. So obviously these two go hand in hand, right? Cycle of Hatred and Relentless Onslaught. So you want to make sure you take Relentless Onslaught with this. And then you're just going to go off to the right here. Another Endurance and Fatal Flaw. So this is a build, like I said, for Mythic Plus mostly. You can run it in Raid. If you're going to run it in Raid, you would probably swap Glaive Tempest with Unbound. And then there you are. Also in Raid, you definitely want to take Dauntless Duelist. But this video in particular is for Mythic Plus. So how would this work in Mythic Plus? So this is the opener you're going to use for this build. You're going to Immolation Aura, do a Demon's Bite to get some Fury, Sinful Brand, I-Beam. Now we're going to want to meta, I-Beam again, then unload our Glaive Tempest. Then we're just going to be, spamming Chaos Strikes, Demon's Bite to get our I-Beam back so we can then extend our Sinful Brand on the targets again. Make sure you're refreshing your Immolation Aura. And we're so close to an extend here. Let's get it. And we're going to extend on all 3. Glaive Tempest. There you go. Oh, we missed this one. But you get the gist of it. You're basically just, you know, tunneling Chaos Strikes and Demon's Bites to make sure you get your I-Beam off cooldown so you can extend the Sinful Brands, and then unloading your Glaive Tempest when you get some, you know, some free Fury, and you know you're not going to be compromising your extensions of Sinful Brand. That's basically it. If you were running Unbound Chaos, you would just be holding on to your Unbound Chaos charges until you're outside of your demonic form, and then you would just Fel Rush. In this case, you would Fel Rush into a wall, so you're not like getting out of range of the enemy. And that's pretty much it. That's your opener. So again, you're going to Immolation Aura, Demon's Bite, Sinful Brand, I-Beam. You're going to meta to reset your I-Beam again, and then you're going to cast your I-Beam to get a double extension, and then you can do Glaive Tempest, and then just tunnel your Chaos Strikes. Now, of course, if you're playing this build in Mythic Plus, one of the big factors and the pros of you being in the group is the fact that your Metamorphosis will apply Sinful Brand on as many targets as it can hit. And then you can also extend all of those Sinful Brands with I-Beam, as, you know, assuming that you actually hit all those targets with I-Beam. So what I would do, say this is a pack in Mythic Plus here. There's how many mobs here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mobs. This is kind of a smaller pull, but usually I would say probably a general Mythic Plus pull. But of course, like if you're doing a big pull, like maybe at the start of Halls of Atonement, where you're combining 3-4 packs, you have like 15 mobs on top of each other. This is where this tactic really shines, right? So I'll just give you an example of what you would do here. You would Immolation Aura to start, throw out a Sinful Brand on one enemy. You're going to I-Beam, and then meta, and then I-Beam again. And now all of these mobs have an extended Sinful Brand on them. Then you just want to be blasting Chaos Strikes as much as you can to get extensions, or sorry, to get cooldown reduction on your I-Beam. Make sure you have Immolation Aura up. Okay, and now we're going to extend. And there we go. We're keeping up that Sinful Brand. We're keeping it rolling on that many targets. And it works really, really well. So that's how you would kind of utilize your opener. You want to make sure that you're using meta, applying Sinful Brand to as many of them as you can, and then just blasting Chaos Strikes to extend the dot on all of those mobs. So there you have it, guys. If you want to get this weak aura as well, I will put a link to it in the description. This just allows you to track your I-Beam cooldown, your Sinful Brand cooldown, and your dot duration right here. So it keeps track of whatever enemy you have targeted at the time. Just reflects that information. And yeah, I believe that's it. If you guys have any other questions, make sure you drop a comment. I'll answer as much as I can. And like I said, I will be putting out further videos on the other builds that people are playing nowadays. There are, of course, you know, builds with Theotar. There are builds with Draven. There's triple potency. There's double potency. There's first blood builds, non-first blood builds. Everything is pretty much viable right now. So I want to make sure I give you guys the information so you can go ahead and play with those yourself. So make sure you sub to the channel, give this video a like, and yeah, I'll catch you next time. Peace.